Thank you all for coming. First of all, I'd like to thank Francisco for the opportunity to be here talking with you. I'm very sorry that I'm not there in person. Unfortunately, I have been traveling too much on the last 6 months, and I had problems at home with my wife and my kids. I also had problems with my passport. My passport just expired this week, and I didn't have time to renew before I could go to New Zealand. So, you know, thanks very much actually being willing to watch this remotely like this. Let's see if we can make the best out of this, and you know, if you guys want to ask questions along the way, let's just make this the best possible. I just would like to tell you that I did write, I've done this presentation a few times in some interesting events. We did a Java 1 in Brazil. We did at OSCON in Portland, United States, and I also did it at Stockholm in JFocus events. And every time we change a little bit, but you know, the heart of the presentation is pretty much the same. And you can read a blog about it on my website. That's java.mn. If you go there, you're going to see a little bit, you know, about this parts of this presentation written down, if it's easier than watching webcasts. So we're going to talk here a little bit about the future Java developer. And one interesting thing about the future Java developers, now we're not talking specifically about the future of development in Java. The thing is, we believe that there's a lot of things that you can see right now going on in the industry right now, that if you follow those trends, they will make you a better developer, and you're going to be ready for the future. So the whole idea of the future Java developer is about you know, as a developer, what you can do now to prepare for the future. And so basically, we're just going to plan, you know, we're thinking about what we're going to do in the future, but we're just going to plan it for you now. And of course, you know, I'm a Java developer, so we're just kind of thinking about Java first, but the whole idea is to talk about general trends of development, and it's not only about Java, right? You can apply this to a lot of other technologies and industries. So the first thing we have to think is that software development gives you several freedoms. And we're not talking about here the free software freedoms. We're talking about freedoms to you as a developer in a more broader sense. And the first freedom I like to call the freedom of imagination. And basically it's the idea that software has no limits. So it has this little story here from Hubert that you know, the lady is trying to ask the guy what kind of software he wants. And so the guy says, well, just design my software. And then she's like, well, but you have to tell me what it is. What do you want to do? And then she says, try to get this concept through your thick skull. The software can do whatever I design it to do. And so the guy says, can you design it to tell my requirements? You know, basically that's the point. I think you all have to put this in your mind, that software can do anything you think, right? And this is a very, very powerful message. It means that you, as a developer, you can do, you know, you can let your imagination go, and you can create things that whatever you think, you can create, right? And I think we have to extend this as much as possible, because a lot of people are still stuck in doing very basic, form-based kind of software, and are not actually thinking about new and innovative ways and innovative ideas. And I think all of you have this opportunity to really think out of the box and do anything you want. And this would be completely ridiculous in the real world, right? If anyone tell you as an architect, and the customer needs a little toy in a tree, and the architect comes and develops a full-fledged park, right? Of course, it's kind of ridiculous, but this analogy has been a true joke in software development, right? We've been seeing that a lot of times we just kind of create such amazing and complex things to do the things that we want. It just kind of shows us that we have the freedom to expand our imagination as much as we want. So that's the first freedom we have to think about. The second freedom is the freedom to learn and build from others. So I think all of us have to get what Bart simply is saying here. Open source is good for me, and I will fully embrace it. That's basically one of the most important messages in this whole presentation, is that open source, there's a lot of discussion around open source, if it's valid, if it's not, how do we get money, how do we benefit from it, and what exactly, how is my business model? All of these are business questions around open source. But one important thing that we have to understand is that in terms of the software developer, open source is the most important thing we can think, because as software developers, we learn from software code, right? We learn from code. The best way for us to learn is to get someone else's code and modify it and test it out and try different things, and then we can actually learn. We don't learn anything by running a software. Actually, we can learn, but very little. You get, for example, a Java compiler, right? Java C. And then you run Java C, hello world.java, enter, and you get back a prompt, right? Okay, that's it. But if you actually go inside the source code and you see all the great things that's going on inside the compiler, that's a big difference between running the software and actually seeing how it works underneath. And for us developers, the most important thing that we have is the ability to learn from code. And it's very important that we embrace that idea, and that we go out and we not only learn, but we actually be able to modify what others did, and we build on top of it. Because building on top of software that already exists it's extremely powerful, allows us to go a lot farther. You see how science evolves, right? Science evolves because the scientists are not trying to just redo the same thing over and over and over. Scientists are building on top of other scientists, building on other things that they've done, and allows us to do much more than if you have to restart from scratch all the time. So those two things, the freedom for you to learn and the freedom for you to build on top of what others did, are two very, very strong freedoms that you as a developer have. But you have to be willing to embrace that idea, and you have to be willing to participate on that discussion. Otherwise, you're not going to learn as much as you can, and you're not going to build as much as you could. And then the other interesting freedom is the freedom from platform. This little joke here talks about Java, and how this guy here spent a lot of time just kind of trying to make a Java machine run in a small device, blah, blah, blah. But the freedom from platform has been embraced by a lot of technology today. Java is probably technology that made this notion popular, right? The whole write once, run everywhere from Java. But today it's the most powerful thing that we have in software development, right? Most of the languages allow you to support multiple platforms. It allows you to create software today for computers that you don't know in the future, right? Allows you to create applications and solutions for platforms and architectures that we don't know how they're going to be in the future. And I think this gives us the freedom to develop today for the future. I think that's an extremely powerful and extremely interesting idea. So do not get yourself tied up to a single platform. Keep always on the lookout for those vendors that are going to be trying to hold you to their own specific platform, and will tie you to whatever business model, whatever business idea they have. Keep always looking for solutions that allow you to run applications on multiple environments. And that's true with Java. Java allows you to do that. But today, as I said, most technologies are multi-platform technologies. So you see, for example, on the mobile space, where there is at least one vendor trying to hold you to not only one, there's a couple of vendors trying to hold on to tie you to their environment. And then there's a lot of people developing applications on HTML5, for example, that allow you to run native-looking applications, but they are developed as a multi-platform. So you as a developer, keep your freedom. There's one time someone said that the worst enemy of freedom is a happy slave. So do not become a happy slave, right? Fight and look for ways to keep your freedom. And one interesting thing about Java specifically, when you're talking about with Java developers, is that there's a whole lot of new language on the JVM right now. Right? There's a lot of discussions about, should I use those languages, should I not? Do I really need more languages? But the truth is, all of the new languages are running on top of the Java VM. So you have the ability, and now with Java 7, we have even more support for multiple languages. So you have this possibility of experimenting, playing around with multiple different languages and different ways of doing development, and at the same time tying it up with the multi-platform capabilities of Java, tying up with the abilities of all of the libraries and all the knowledge that you had in the past. So, there's a huge amount of language that you can benefit from, and the more advanced the Java VM becomes, the more advanced those languages are, the more integration you're going to see between the Java VM and the new language coming up. So benefit from that. If you're a Java developer, if you're ahead of the game on that part. Okay, another freedom that we like to mention is the freedom to work from anywhere. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there with you. I would love to be there to visit your beautiful country. I haven't been to New Zealand yet, and the closer I got was to Indonesia. It's not too far, but of course I would love to be there with you. But since I can't, we still can be able to work from anywhere. And as developers, we are able to do this. It's not, there's a whole lot of professions out there that you can't really just work from anywhere, right? You have to have a physical place. You have to have, you're tied to a city or to a country or to a specific area, But as developers, we can actually work from anywhere. And working from anywhere has two different things. One interesting thing is that you can actually go look for interesting projects that happen anywhere in the world. That's one interesting way of looking at this. But the other interesting way is realizing that interesting people can come to work for you no matter where they are, no matter where you are. So you can have interesting projects, and you can attract people from all over the world to actually work on your project without they having to move or without having to hassle with immigration laws and all of that. And that opens up an opportunity for innovative developers to find other innovative developers and create new innovative solutions and participate on open source projects and work together to create new ideas. So I think this kind of brings us to the idea that it's very, very important that we are able to work on this diverse environment, and we are able to work with people that speak a different language, that doesn't have English as a primary language, for example, and that has different costumes and everything. So I think this is one thing that we all have to work on to be able to benefit from that. And the last freedom I'm going to talk about here is the freedom from hardware. I think that's one interesting thing that's going on right now, the whole discussion around the cloud computing. And basically, a parallel idea has been the 3D printing. 3D printing has not a lot to do with software. Of course, software is involved in there, but it has nothing a lot to do with software. There's the whole idea of you being able to print your own material. You could, for example, if you have a 3D printer at home, you can print a chair, for example, or your sofa, or another printer, for example. So there are some open source 3D printers in the market that the printer prints its own parts, right? So once you have a 3D printing, and you can start creating all kinds of different things that you can imagine, because if you can design that thing in a computer-aided design program, and you can print that, so you can kind of create anything, right? Now, coming back to software, to this parallel, imagine that you can have any idea, right? And then you can go out and get open source code to help you build your idea, and this runs anywhere because you have the freedom of platforms, and you're using some multi-platform technology, and you can actually work from anywhere. So this code that you're creating can reside anywhere, and now you can basically, like a 3D printer, you can basically print your own servers, right? You can go online and say, I want 1 server, 2 servers, 100 servers, and just run whatever you want on the machine. So you combine all of that, and it gives us, as software developers, this amazing opportunity, this amazing world where we can do a whole lot of things that were not possible only a few years ago, right? So cloud computing is a great opportunity because it frees us from frees us from having some physical hardware that we have to depend on, and frees us from actually having to buy, acquire, and maintain this hardware part, right? So us as software developers, we kind of have this wonderful and amazing freedom that if you combine this whole thing, it's an amazing opportunity. So this is basically what we have today, right? This is the world that we have. Nothing that I just said is it's anything for the future. All of these you can do today, right now, and if you work on those things, you're getting yourself ready to become the developer of the future. So thinking about those things, let me quickly kind of think about some of the things that the future looks like, right? So first of all, we have this new world of new gadgets, cloud computing, remote work, distributed teams, agile methods, all kinds of dynamic languages. New gadgets are coming out all the time, and this whole and more will come, right? There's no there's no shortage of new gadgets coming out. And all of those guys will need innovative softwares, especially in the back end, to kind of connect all the things that they're doing, and all that, right? We have, when you talk about innovative gadgets, we have not only the normal things like phones and TV. So one interesting example, the Brazilian TV standard now includes Java and Lua, two languages for you to develop a TV content, right? And just this past 2 weeks ago, there was released the SDK for you to develop TV applications with Java. And, you know, those kinds of opportunities are showing everywhere. You know, new kinds of devices. And if you are working on thinking about being platform independent, thinking about being able to tap into all kinds of different servers on the back end, for example, you can get all of those kinds of devices to work, not only to work together, but to do interesting things. As an example, one of the projects that won the Java won Duke Award this year was a project called JHome. And JHome is basically a set of devices made with Arduino that's an open source circuit board, and tied together with Java code in the back end. It ties together with the Glassfish application server for you to do home automation projects. So all of these are things that you can do today to kind of experiment with the gadgets in the future. I'll talk a little bit about cloud computing, but the whole idea of the cloud computing, you know, we're talking about a whole lot more processing power. We're talking about fine-grained cost. That basically means, you know, you can do things and just pay for what you're using. So that means you can do a lot of things without paying anything. And then when you grow this, when you reach a lot of customers, when you kind of create a business model around that, then then you're gonna pay. You're gonna have more cost, but you know you're gonna have a business model around that. And of course, one interesting thing is a whole lot faster results, right? I can today literally create machines and expand and grow my environment. You know, not even with a touch of a button. You know, actually automating a lot of things, right? Oops, wrong button. So one of the things that we have is, of course, this brings new worries. We're just talking about freedom from platform and being able to run in different environments. And of course, the new cloud computing players are trying to lock you in to their environments and trying to convince you that whatever environment they have is better than everyone else's environment. So we have some new worries, but you know, it's something that's important. I talk a little bit about remote work. Not only you being able to work remotely, but others being able to work remotely for you. And this allows us to create really distributed teams, right? To create teams that are made of the best of breed of people. You know, if you get, you know, if your best developer is in New Zealand and your best business guy is in Brazil, and you know your greatest marketing guy is in Europe, you know, you can create a team. And today, every company. So I was working with a startup, for example, about 3 months ago, and it's a very small startup with a very interesting idea. And they started with one developer in Japan, and one business manager, like a business development guy, in Pittsburgh, United States, and then they hire another developer in Portugal and another developer in California. And so this is the team. It's a startup. It's starting being like a global company. So more and more we're going to see this, and it opens up opportunities because it's a lot easier for you to find good people if you have the whole world to look for. And of course, you're talking about the whole idea of the agile methodologies. You know, the idea that you're able to do software development in a faster way, in a more agile way. But not only that, going forward, being able to do, we are always talking about continuous integration, for example, being able to test and integrate your software continuously. But going a step forward, being able to do continuous deployments, right? Being able to run your application and have your new development in production, not only once every 6 months or even once a month, but several times a day, right? Where you can actually test, deploy, check, and if anything goes wrong, undeploy your application. All of these being done automatically. All of these being done in terms of with a lot of automation. So that's one very important thing when you talk about agile development. It's not only the development itself, but it's the whole life cycle, making it more agile from development to production. And of course, all of this ties into the dynamic language. It's a lot easier for you to do this kind of things where you put your application up there as fast as possible. If you do have languages, they are more dynamic, that require less, it's a faster turnaround in terms of your development cycle. And so, some of the challenges, of course, the cloud is a challenge. There's no doubt. And a lot of people are talking about, the multi-core environments where your application, you have many threads, for example, where your application can benefit from the larger multi-core hardware and everything. All of this ties into the idea of parallel programming. Being able to think about your software in a parallel way and benefit from multiple hardware at the same time is an important idea. It's an important skill that you as a developer have to have. Because not only you're talking about parallel in terms of large servers where you're going to have, large amount of processors. There are multi-core and are able to run multiple threads at the same time. But we're also talking about small devices, right? When you're talking about home automation, what do you have? Lots of small devices running code, right? When you talk about cell phones and tablets and TVs and all of those guys, we're talking about a larger and larger parallel system where we have lots of little pieces running in all kinds of different environments. And there's a lot of things in terms of platforms, framework, tools that you can consider right now to do your development. And let me kind of just go back here because otherwise I'll run out of time. And what can you do now? So we're talking about the future, and we're talking about things that you can do now. So if you're thinking the future, what should you be doing to prepare for that, right? So to prepare for the future, first of all, right now, start deploying applications in the cloud, right? If you don't have an account in a cloud provider like Google App Engine or Amazon or Heroku or any of the dozens of cloud providers they have right now, even Oracle at Java 1 announced their new cloud environment, right? So if you don't have an account in any of those places, you're late, right? So you should do this right now. All you need to do is having a credit card, get some of those accounts. So all of those providers are going to give you enough power and for enough time that you can test a lot of things completely free. So, for example, Google App Engine allows you to run, a reasonably sized website with all kinds of different applications for free. You only need to pay if you have a higher access rate. So if you're testing out, you can do all for free. You get Amazon, for example. Amazon is going to give you a mini machine for a whole year that you can use. So you can have and that's enough for you to run one machine for, they give like 720 hours a month. That means it's enough for you to run one machine for the whole month. Or you can run, two machines for 15 days. Or, you can make some weird experiments of having, maybe 10 machines for a couple of days, right? So, you can play with those technologies to understand how they work, to understand what's different, because your application is not going to be the same. Your development process is not going to be the same. There's a lot of automation that you can do on those environments that you just can't do with a hardware environment. So, for example, if let's say your application at some point realizes that there's a lot of people accessing the application and it needs more hardware. In the real world, you can't just say, oh, I need more hardware, just create a new machine, right? Because, in the real world, you need to call someone and having them bring a machine in, and that's going to take days or more likely weeks for that to happen. But on a cloud environment, if you need more machines for the next 2 hours or 3 hours or the next 2 days, you can just start as many machines as you want. And interesting about that, so your application can do that. You don't need a person to realize that kind of things and take any action. So the sooner you start realizing those things into your application and how you can benefit that and how you can create new things, the more prepared you're going to be for that environment. The other thing you need to do is work with distributed teams from different cultures, right? How are you going to be able to reach out with people from across the globe to participate on your development, or for you to participate on their development, if if you don't know how to do that, right? If you're not ready to do that. So you really have to start doing this as soon as possible. That means go find an open source project where people all over the world are participating and see how that works, right? Make sure your environment is independent from the place where you are. So if you're, work from home 1 day a week, find out why you can't work from home, right? Oh, your company doesn't give you enough access to access the systems when you're working from home, or your phone system, it's not prepared for you to work from anywhere, right? So you have to test out. You have to find out what are the limitations that you have to be able to bring people from outside into your project, and from you to participate on someone else's project. The sooner you understand those limitations that you have, the sooner you're going to be able to start fixing those limitations and being able to work from anywhere. Create architectures looking for simplicity. Right now, these systems are getting really big, really complex. With hundreds of players. All kinds of different machines. In a cloud application can span a lot of different machines. If you tie in with all kinds of small devices that we're talking about, this can become a really large number of machines and environments. So, oops, what happened here? Full screen again. So the environments are getting pretty sophisticated, pretty complex. So if you don't prepare your architectures for simplicity, very soon your architecture is not able to scale, is not able to reach those environments. So you have to think about how you can simplify things instead of how you can complicate it. And that's an important skill for you to acquire. And one very interesting thing is think of service. I'm not sure if you guys saw a recent discussion. It probably came out maybe last week or the week before. There was a memo from this guy from Google that he accidentally put online on Google+, and then Google just decided to leave it there, where this guy discussed what are the problems of Google, right? And he talks exactly about that. He talks about, he compares Google with Amazon, and he complains a lot of things about Amazon, a lot of things with Google, and that's a very interesting read for that alone. But the most impressive thing that discussion does is to talk about how far along Amazon created their service architecture and how far behind Google is on their service architecture. And I think that discussion goes really to the point that more and more we have to think of services and export everything we do as services. So everyone else can tap into whatever we're doing, and then and not only everyone else, but ourselves, right? We have to kind of create this architecture where, you know, the teams inside our own company will access each other's services and be able to create more things on top of that. And one thing that Amazon did very, very well is that they were able to create this platform, this infrastructure, where it doesn't matter if they, Amazon, are able to do everything the user wants. It matters that they are able to provide a platform that you, as a developer, you can benefit from what they have to create the things that the user wants. So you have the Amazon as a platform provider, have you as a developer creating solutions on top of that, and then the end user gets what he needs. It doesn't need to come from Amazon. Amazon benefits from your work, and you benefit from what Amazon is doing. So that's a win-win solution. So you as a developer, you need to be able to not only benefit from the service that exists and go after those service providers that can bring good services for your application, but also be able to export the things you're doing as services. So other developers and even end users can kind of create solutions on top of what you're doing. So do not think of things as something that you're doing yourself, right, that with no connection to everyone else. You know, think of services in a way that you're providing services so other developers can create other services on top of this, and you win, they win, everyone wins. And one of the masters is, I was in JFocus in Stockholm, and the speaker that spoke right before me was Neil Ford, and he discussed about becoming a polyglot programmer. The whole idea of you as a developer being able to work with all kinds of different languages and different technologies, for you to not be tied into one specific way of doing things. And why is that important? The same way that when you learn a foreign language, I'm not sure how many of you had the experience, but the more foreign languages that you learn, the better you speak any language, right? Because you understand the similarities, you understand the differences, you understand, you know better how to make all kinds of different sounds. So the more language you're able to speak, the better you speak any language. And that's the same thing for you as a developer. The more languages that you know how to write your code, the better you're going to be in any language that you choose when you develop a specific project. And I think this is very, very powerful. And for you, that you're a Java developer, it's even more powerful because, you know, you can benefit from the Java VM and all the libraries that you have in the Java VM and choose the specific language for the specific thing that you need to do. So if your project has a very dynamic web interface that you need to put things out there as fast as possible, you can use, I don't know, maybe you can use Ruby as the language for to develop the web interface. But on the other hand, you are integrating with sophisticated backends that has already a lot of Java libraries being written to it, and you can use Java to do that, and you can mix and match all those languages. And the more sophisticated the Java VM is, the easier that is to do. And you as a developer, if you understand the fact that you don't need to be stuck in one language, actually it's better that you know several of them, the better you're going to be able to choose which one you're going to use for different things. And so how can we build the future, right? Oops. One thing I want to say about how building the future is that, we are building the future right now, right? The problems we're going to have tomorrow, we're creating them right now. And I think we have this unique opportunity to free ourselves from a lot of baggage that we have. You know, free from the physical location, free ourselves from specific hardware requirements, free ourselves from specific vendors, pushed ideas, and be able to collaborate with each other to make a better software, right? And I think that we can build the future by doing right now. And so that's my email, and that's my Twitter accounts. And my co-speaker at JFocus was Vin. This presentation was also done with Fabian and Ardon. And I'm not sure how much time I still have because I don't have any timer in my screen here, but I'll at least open for questions.
Yes, Bruno.
I hope you were able to hear anything.
No problem, Bruno. Just finish on time. That's okay. Anyone have any question for Bruno? No? Okay. All right, Bruno. Thank you very much for your time. Muito obrigado pelo seu tempo para falar aqui para Nova Zelândia. And I hope you will have a good time with the family. I know the feeling. And I hope to see you soon.
Yes, thank you, everyone. And thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.